Today, we're going to be addressing one of the leading causes of small muscle syndrome, and that is rep tempo. I hear this all the time with people trying to build strength, build muscle. They have good form, they have proper programming, but then when you go to look at their sets and reps, they're banging out reps, going for as much weight as they possibly can, not controlling the rep tempo. Controlling your rep tempo is probably one of the most important factors when it comes to building muscle and strength. Obviously, load and resistance is important, but if you can't control it, you're gonna see a lot less gains, a lot less progress. So you wanna master that tempo and then increase the load. So with tempo, probably a lot of you know this, but there's three main phases to a rep. So you start with the concentric. So I'm gonna just do a bicep curl here. We start at the bottom of this rep, our biceps are fully lengthened. The concentric is the muscle is contracting and going, in this case, going up, and now we're at this peak contraction. Here at the peak contraction, we have the isometric phase, which is where you're holding it and squeezing those muscles. And then you have the third phase, which is the eccentric, which is controlling this on the way down, or the lengthening of the muscle. And with that, you can fine-tune the tempo at each one of these phases to help accomplish different goals. All right, let's start with the eccentric phase, because this is most often neglected or underutilized. And we'll demonstrate it with the chest press. So a lot of times we get people started with bands or free weights in the chest press. You know, they're gonna explode up on that concentric, and then they usually just, bam, let it slingshot them back down. Well, the eccentric phase is this lowering portion, and if you just drop it and let it slingshot back down, and then of course it'll slingshot down, boom, it's gonna bounce off your chest, and then you're gonna start the concentric phase halfway up. Well, you've literally just deleted half of the rep. So controlling that eccentric phase is huge. And usually we like to give it at least 2 to 3 seconds on the way down. And I mean, you can fine tune this, like I said, you can go way longer, and it's gonna give you a lot more time under tension. So one of the biggest drivers in muscle hypertrophy is time under tension, or the amount of time that this muscle group spends in tension throughout a set. So the longer you can give tension to this muscle group throughout the range of motion, the more damage is going to be done to the muscle, the more you're going to feel that pumped up feeling, and the more hypertrophy and growth you're going to get. Next up, let's chat about the isometric phase, which is the phase in between the eccentric and concentric. So you technically have like 2 isometric phases in the rep, right? So you have on the bottom of the rep in the shoulder press. So we're going eccentric here. Now we are isometric at the bottom of this rep. And usually at the bottom of this rep, the muscles are going to be stretched and lengthened. The primary muscle group is going to be stretched and lengthened. And I typically like to spend maybe like a second or 2 in this position. And ultimately that's to arrest the momentum, let that muscle get really, stretched, and then we proceed through the concentric. And then when we get to the top of the rep, this is the other isometric area where this muscle is at peak contraction. And like in this case with the shoulder press, it's great to spend some time here, like a couple of seconds, and really squeeze those muscles, fully contract them, and take advantage of this isometric phase. And last but not least is the concentric phase. Now for strength building, you're going to want to do this phase more explosively or quicker, usually like 1 to 2 seconds, and you're trying to explode on the way up, especially with free weights, because you have mass here, and we all know from physics class that force is equal to mass times acceleration, and we have the acceleration from gravity that's present no matter what speed that I'm going at. But if I'm accelerating this bar, pushing it faster through the rep, that's going to maximize force production, because we're using gravitational acceleration plus the acceleration from the motion of the rep itself. So that's why with free weights, that is why we push through and explode in that concentric phase, to really maximize that force output and production. Now with bands, it's not going to behave the exact same way, because the acceleration coming from the band, there is no mass in there, and gravity is not acting on a band at all. So you basically, by speeding up the rep with a band, you're not going to see the same force maximizing effects. So ultimately, yes, you can still contract and explode through that concentric, but by going faster and pushing that acceleration to the limit, you're not going to see that level of force increase. It's going to be basically fixed to whatever the band output is. One more key difference between bands and free weights is that bands have a progressive resistance curve, which means that the further I stretch them, the more force, the more resistance they put out, which is why with bands it's so important to fully control all phases of the rep to get the most benefits. So at the end of the day, the most important thing here is if you're trying to build muscle and strength, you need to focus on rep tempo and controlling that weight or that resistance throughout the range of motion. When you can do that and also increase that force and increase the resistance over time, that is the secret sauce for gains. If you liked what you saw today, be sure to smash that like button. Also, if you want to see more content like this, we got tons of content on this channel. Check out the on-screen video links. And furthermore, if you need any of the resistance bands or accessories shown today, head over to clenchfitness.com. We will hook you up, and thank you for watching.